The air was heavy with the savory aroma of sizzling steaks and buttery sauces as Chris wheeled his bike up to the back door of Bellevue Grill, the town's trendiest eatery. It was his fourth delivery of the evening, and while exhaustion already tugged at his muscles, he took a steadying breath, determined to stay professional. He knocked firmly on the stainless steel door, the chill of the evening air biting through his worn jacket. Moments later, the door swung open, revealing a tall server in a pristine white apron. "Yeah," she said flatly, her eyes darting down to Chris's scuffed shoes and up to his tired face. Before Chris could respond, a burst of laughter erupted from inside, turning her head slightly. A group of uniformed staff had gathered, exchanging smug smiles and whispers, but their gaze was locked firmly on him. Chris held out his phone. "Here to pick up the order for Mason. Should be ready by now." The server glanced at his phone without taking it, her lip curling in slight amusement. "Hold on," she said, leaving the door ajar as she disappeared inside. Chris adjusted the strap of his bag, hearing fragments of their conversation. "Another one? It's like they're multiplying." "No kidding. Bet you he's one of those guys who takes the leftovers after a shift. Maybe he should focus on a real career instead of biking all over the city like some pizza boy." The last quip brought a roar of laughter from the group, and Chris's stomach tightened. He'd heard it all before, but the sting never dulled. He lowered his eyes to his weathered sneakers and flexed his hands, reminding himself to stay calm. He needed this job to pay for his younger sister's medication and had no energy left to snap back. A clattering noise drew his attention back to the door as the server returned, holding out a pair of paper bags emblazoned with the restaurant's golden logo. "Here," she said, smirking as she placed them in his hands. "Thanks," Chris muttered, forcing politeness into his tone. As he secured the bags in his thermal carrier, he heard the unmistakable sound of a phone camera click. One of the staff, leaning casually against the doorway, was snapping a photo of him. Another coworker leaned in, whispering something that made the group burst into more fits of laughter. Chris felt heat crawl up his neck. He didn't dare look back as he zipped the carrier closed, turning to his bike. The humiliation stuck to him like the frigid wind as he rode toward the customer's address. His mind replayed their sneering remarks and the quick judgment in their eyes, but he focused on the task at hand. At the restaurant, the laughter continued, amplified now by their social media antics. One of the bartenders uploaded the photo of Chris to their private group chat, adding a caption that read, "Career goals, right?" That image quickly spilled into a wider circle. By the time the restaurant's patrons were finishing their dessert, the image had already been shared to an Instagram story with sarcastic hashtags mocking delivery drivers. What no one at Bellevue Grill anticipated was who might see it next. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, a single tweet caught Elon Musk's eye as he scrolled through his feed during a break at the Tesla headquarters. His brow furrowed as he read the thread of mocking comments attached to the image. For a moment, his finger hovered over his phone, tapping thoughtfully against the glass. A small, knowing smile formed. "I've got just the thing," he said softly. Chris wouldn't know it yet, but his life was about to take a turn he could never have dreamed of. By the next morning, the photo had gone from a mocking inside joke to an online wildfire. The Instagram story posted by one of the restaurant employees had been shared, reshared, and commented on thousands of times. What began as a cruel jab at a hardworking delivery driver had evolved into a battleground for outrage and empathy. Mocking delivery drivers? Really classy, one Twitter user wrote, attaching the screenshot of the viral post. Another commented, "People like him are out in the freezing cold to make ends meet while you sip wine and laugh at his expense." The hashtags #respectdrivers and #supportworkers were trending within hours. Some people tagged the restaurant's official social media accounts, calling them out for their staff's behavior. Others began posting their own stories of struggles in low-wage jobs, sparking a conversation about workplace dignity. Chris, however, was blissfully unaware of the chaos online. After his late-night deliveries, he had crashed on the worn-out couch in his small apartment, the distant hum of traffic outside lulling him to sleep. When he woke up to dozens of unread messages on his phone, he could hardly believe his eyes. "Chris, you're all over Twitter," one of his friends had texted. Another message read, "People are standing up for you, man. Check out the #respectdrivers." Confused and anxious, Chris opened the links, his stomach sinking as he saw the image of himself at Bellevue Grill, his exhausted face now dissected by thousands of strangers online. Some comments were supportive, but others stung even more than the insults from the restaurant staff. "Why doesn't he just get a real job? Boo-hoo, everyone's got problems. Move on." Chris's anxiety was overshadowed by a sense of humiliation. He felt exposed, his private struggle laid bare for public consumption. Still, amidst the negativity, the voices of support gave him a glimmer of hope. At the restaurant, things were spiraling out of control. The owner, Greg Landry, stormed into the kitchen, waving his phone in the air. "What the hell is going on?" he barked. "We're getting bombarded with angry calls, and the reservations for tonight are dropping by the hour." The employees glanced at each other uneasily, the smugness from the night before replaced by nerves. "It was just a joke," one of the servers muttered, shrinking under Greg's glare. "A joke?" Greg's voice rose. "This joke has turned into a PR disaster. Fix this. Issue an apology or whatever it takes to make this go away." Meanwhile, in an entirely different corner of the world, Elon Musk's tweet caused a ripple that would soon become a tsunami. He had posted the viral photo with a simple caption: "Kindness matters. Respect everyone who works hard. Big things ahead for this guy." The cryptic nature of the tweet set the internet ablaze. Thousands of his followers began speculating. Is Elon hiring him? Big things? What does he mean? This is why I love Musk. Man stands up for the underdogs. As the buzz intensified, Chris felt like the entire world was watching him. His anxiety battled with cautious curiosity. What could Elon Musk, a billionaire innovator and cultural icon, possibly have in store for someone like him? Little did Chris know, this was just the beginning of a series of events that would completely transform his life. Back at Bellevue Grill, the atmosphere had shifted from laughter to paranoia. The public backlash was relentless. Angry reviews flooded their social media, dragging the restaurant's once pristine 4.8-star rating down to a dismal 2.3 in a matter of hours. Headlines like "Elite Restaurant Under Fire for Mocking Delivery Driver" dominated local news sites. For the staff involved, the realization of their actions hit hard. Lily, the server who had mocked Chris to his face, felt a knot of guilt in her stomach as she scrolled through the responses online. Every sneering comment from the night before replayed in her mind, their cruelty now painfully clear. "We've really messed up," she admitted to her co-worker Jack, who had taken the infamous photo. "Tell me about it," Jack muttered, staring at his phone. "People are threatening to boycott the restaurant. Greg's livid, and now my Instagram's private because everyone's coming for me." Greg Landry, the owner, wasn't faring any better. He had spent the entire morning on damage control, but with every generic apology he posted, the backlash only seemed to grow. Even worse, Elon Musk's involvement had brought global attention to the scandal, something Greg hadn't anticipated. He was desperate for a way to salvage both his reputation and his business. Meanwhile, Chris was reeling. The support pouring in from strangers was overwhelming, but the situation felt surreal. Sitting in his cramped apartment, he wondered how his small, quiet life had turned into the center of a global discussion. He hadn't asked for this attention, nor did he know how to handle it. As he stared at his phone, a new message popped up. It was from someone claiming to be an assistant for Elon Musk. Chris's eyes widened in disbelief as he read it. "Hi Chris, this is Kara from Tesla HQ. Mr. Musk has taken an interest in your story and would like to speak with you personally. Are you available for a call?" His heart raced. Could this be real? He reread the message several times before nervously replying. Moments later, his phone buzzed. "Chris, this is Elon Musk," came a calm yet charismatic voice on the other end of the line. Chris froze for a moment, unsure of how to respond. Hi Mr. Musk," he managed to say, his voice shaky. Elon chuckled. "First off, I want to say how impressed I am with your resilience. Second, I've got an idea I think you'll like. Do you have a few minutes?" Chris nodded, though Elon couldn't see him, and muttered, "Yeah, of course." For the next 20 minutes, Elon explained his plan. He talked about turning the incident into a powerful message about respect for hard work, not just for Chris but for workers everywhere. While the specifics remained vague, Elon assured Chris that what was coming would be life-changing. As the call ended, Chris sat in stunned silence. His world felt like it was spinning out of control, but for the first time, it wasn't spiraling downward. It was rising. Still, a nagging question lingered in his mind. What was Elon Musk really planning? The smell of seared meats and fresh herbs wafted through the polished dining room of Bellevue Grill, but tonight, the usual hum of conversation was absent. The restaurant was eerily quiet, with only a few diners seated. Behind the scenes, the tension was palpable. The fallout from the viral scandal was taking a toll on everyone, and Greg Landry, the restaurant owner, was on the edge of losing control. As Greg paced back and forth in his office, barking at staff over the phone, the front-of-house team whispered anxiously. No one had seen him this rattled. For all their fears, none of them expected the event that was about to unfold. A sleek, electric Tesla pulled into the parking lot, its glossy silver exterior reflecting the restaurant's glowing signage. The door opened and Elon Musk stepped out, dressed in a crisp blazer over a casual black t-shirt. His presence, commanding and unannounced, sent shockwaves through the restaurant. Inside, the hostess did a double take as he entered the lobby. "Mr. Musk," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. He smiled politely. "Yes. Is Greg Landry here? Tell him Elon Musk is here to see him." Word of Musk's arrival spread like wildfire. Staff scrambled, whispering nervously as Greg bolted out of his office, his face pale. Elon Musk stood at the entrance, scanning the restaurant as though he were evaluating every detail. "Mr. Musk," Greg began, forcing a tight smile, "it's an honor to have you here." "I assume this is about?" "Yes, the recent incident," Elon cut in smoothly, his tone firm but not unkind. "Let's discuss this somewhere private, shall we?" The two men disappeared into a conference room, leaving the rest of the staff to speculate about what was happening behind the closed doors. While Greg nervously detailed his version of events, Elon sat back in his chair, listening intently. He occasionally nodded, letting Greg explain how the situation had spiraled out of control. "We never meant for it to go this far," Greg insisted. "It was a stupid joke by some of my employees. I've already reprimanded them, and we've issued apologies online." Elon leaned forward, his steely gaze locking onto Greg. "I understand," he said, his voice calm but charged with purpose. "But here's the thing, this isn't just about apologies. It's about accountability and a commitment to change. You have an opportunity to turn this around, but only if you're willing to step up." Greg nodded hesitantly. "What do you have in mind?" As the meeting wrapped up, Elon walked into the dining room, where the staff were still nervously speculating. Without preamble, he addressed the room. "I'm here to make something clear," Elon began. "This isn't about punishing anyone. It's about creating a culture of respect and empathy. Every one of you is part of that." His words carried weight and no one dared interrupt. Elon continued, "Starting today, this restaurant will represent what we want to see in the world: hard work appreciated and respect given to all. To ensure that happens, I've purchased Bellevue Grill." The room erupted in gasps, jaws dropping as the billionaire's announcement landed like a thunderclap. He paused, letting the shock settle before adding, "And Chris, the delivery driver you mocked, will now be the general manager. I trust he'll ensure this place lives up to its new mission." Chris, who had been quietly ushered in moments earlier, stepped forward in disbelief. His hands were trembling as he met Elon's gaze. "I don't know what to say," Chris stuttered. "Say yes," Elon replied with a grin. In that instant, the power dynamic flipped completely. The once dismissive staff stared in stunned silence as Chris stood at the center, their former subject of mockery now holding authority over them. As the reality of the situation sank in, Elon clapped Chris on the shoulder and said, "Let's show them what real leadership looks like." The transformation of Bellevue Grill was about to begin, but for now, the first seeds of change had been planted, turning a moment of humiliation into a catalyst for something extraordinary. The Bellevue Grill's transformation wasn't just a surface-level rebranding, it was a complete shift in values and operations. Under Chris's leadership, guided by Elon Musk's unwavering support, the restaurant took on an entirely new identity, rooted in respect, inclusivity, and second chances. Within weeks of Musk's announcement, the public watched in fascination as the scandal-ridden eatery blossomed into a symbol of redemption. A grand reopening was planned, and Chris stood at the helm, the newly appointed general manager with a team eager to turn the page on their past. The journey wasn't easy. Chris initially faced resistance from some of the old staff who struggled to adjust to the new culture. For Lily and Jack, who had been at the center of the mocking incident, guilt lingered heavily. Chris, however, chose an unexpected approach. He didn't fire them. "People make mistakes," he said during a team meeting. "I know what it's like to feel judged and undervalued. But if we're going to rebuild, it starts with accountability and effort, from all of us." His words struck a chord, and slowly the staff began to see him not as a victim of circumstance but as a leader worth following. Chris introduced empathy training workshops, created new policies to ensure fair treatment for employees, and opened discussions about workplace equality. Every staff member was encouraged to contribute ideas, fostering an environment where voices were heard rather than silenced. Elon Musk remained a quiet yet significant presence throughout the transformation. His financial backing provided the restaurant with new equipment, training resources, and even a partnership with Tesla's sustainable energy initiatives. A small solar farm was installed on the restaurant's roof, and electric vehicle charging stations were added to the parking lot. These innovations turned Bellevue Grill into a modern symbol of progress, attracting patrons who were curious to experience the Elon effect firsthand. The day of the grand reopening arrived, bringing with it a sense of nervous excitement. The once trendy, exclusive restaurant now featured a more welcoming aesthetic, warm lighting, reclaimed wood furniture, and a neon sign above the entrance that read, "Everyone deserves a seat at the table." Chris stood near the entrance in a freshly pressed shirt and tie, greeting the steady stream of diners coming through the doors. Many of them were regular customers who had stopped dining there after the scandal. Others were entirely new faces, drawn by curiosity or admiration for the restaurant's redemptive journey. As the night unfolded, the kitchen buzzed with energy, but it was different now. There was laughter, but it wasn't cruel. There was teamwork, but it wasn't forced. Everyone worked with a sense of shared pride in what they were building together. Toward the end of the evening, Elon Musk himself walked into the restaurant, flanked by his usual air of quiet authority. He scanned the room, smiling at the sight of a packed dining hall and a team radiating confidence. Approaching Chris, he extended his hand. "You've done something incredible here, Chris," Elon said, his tone sincere. Chris gripped his hand, his voice steady. "I couldn't have done it without your belief in me. Or without this team." Elon chuckled. "Belief is only part of it. You turned that belief into action, and that's rare." As the diners applauded, Elon took a seat among them, enjoying a meal that symbolized everything Bellevue Grill now stood for. Months later, Bellevue Grill had become more than just a restaurant. It was a movement. Word of its transformation inspired other businesses to rethink their workplace cultures, and Chris was invited to speak at events advocating for worker respect and empowerment. The viral video that started it all was no longer a source of humiliation for Chris. Instead, it was a reminder of how even the harshest circumstances could spark a change, one that had lifted him from obscurity into a position where he could make a real difference. Looking out from his office window one quiet evening, Chris smiled. The mockery had long since faded, replaced by gratitude, for Elon Musk's intervention, for the community's support, and for the chance to prove that dignity and hard work could overcome anything. And to anyone who doubted that life could turn around in unimaginable ways, Chris's story had become the ultimate testament. No matter where you start, with enough effort, belief, and opportunity, you can end up changing the world.